Good afternoon, Unit 6. Here we are on day 2 of the national finals, and you're surviving and you're still here, and we look forward to a great conversation about some issues in Unit 6. I want to take just a moment to thank your teacher for providing you this experience. It's a memory, by the way. It's a memory I suspect you'll keep with you the rest of your life. And thank you so much for providing this experience for your students. My name's Tom Bonce. I'm a professor of education at Kansas State University, and we're going to have a nice conversation.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Arthurs coming to you from just south of Washington, D.C. I'm a history teacher and a lawyer. And I just want to say, I don't know if you're sports fans, but just by even showing up here, you've already made more sense than the Chicago Bears have this year. So I'm looking forward to having a chat with you all.
My name is Luana Davis. I am a law professor at Cumberland School of Law in Birmingham, Alabama, and we are thrilled to hear your arguments today.
And if you all would introduce yourselves to us.
Hi, my name is Maria Crawford. I am a junior at Chicago Hope Academy.
Hello, my name is Crystal Ochoa, and I am currently a junior at Chicago Hope Academy as well.
Hello, my name is Amanda Morales. I am a senior, and we attend Chicago Hope Academy, representing the state of Illinois, and are coached by our teacher, Mr. Zach Maslenka, and we are so excited to testify in front of you today.
Welcome, everyone. We, of course, are on question 2. President Dwight D. Eisenhower said, "We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. Do you agree or disagree, and why? What disagreements did the founders have about a standing army, and are they relevant today? To what extent should there be an international U.S. military presence?" You may begin.
We agree with President D. Eisenhower. When we have a strong military in place, it prevents our countries from invading and protecting international security matters. In Eisenhower's military-industrial complex speech, Eisenhower mentions how this country has witnessed 4 major wars, and 3 of which U.S. has been involved in. Within our military strength, the United States would not be standing as strong as it is today. Eisenhower has also mentioned how the nation not only depends on its leadership and prestige military, but on the use of our powers to benefit the betterment of our nation and its country. The military also gives this country another line of security. As General James T. Conway said, through U.S. diplomacy and humanitarian efforts alongside the military, we not only strengthen vulnerable nations, but bolster our own national security and keep our troops out of harm's way.
When a standing army is established, there are economic and political influences that overthrow any other presiding issues within the army. Because our founding fathers were heavily influenced by religion, most of them believed that man was corrupt and sinful by nature, which led to the economic factor of a standing army to be a disagreement between anti-federalists and federalists. Economically, the founding fathers were also opposed to a standing army because maintaining the militia was becoming a burden for the people, as James Madison articulated at the Constitutional Convention. Today, the United States spends over $500 billion on its military every year. In Fed 25, Alexander Hamilton argues that a standing army unifies the nation. He then points out that if we let states be in charge of their military power, they would fight over superiority. The U.S. military was once a force that President George Washington would have adored, but over time, political influences have shifted the morals of our military. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "There are instruments so dangerous to the rights of the nation and which place them so totally at the mercy of their governors. Such an instrument is a standing army." However, our founding fathers would firmly argue that we will never see peace until we get rid of it. We are confident that our founding fathers will not be in agreement with the advancement of our standing military today. However, these issues remain present and relevant. Since 1776, the U.S. has been at war 222 out of 239 years. Pressing issues like World War I, World War II, and 9/11 forced our standing military presence to strengthen because society is not what it once was when the framers established the Constitution. Our nation has grown economically with foreign trade and international business. Therefore, it is important for our standing military to be present internationally to enforce our security.
An international U.S. military presence should exist to the extent of national emergency. The U.S. military is present in many countries, including Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq. One ongoing conflict that includes the U.S. military presence is the Yemeni civil war. This began in 2014 due to Houthi forces taking over the government capital of Sana'a, which eventually led to massacre and famine. However, Dwight D. Eisenhower argued that a strong international U.S. military presence prevents other countries from invading our own. International military existence should only be enforced when necessary. To many, a standing army is viewed as a threat, which has caused an outbreak of violence and political disputes. Our military presence has also caused economic burdens, and it has turned heavily political. The Founding Fathers argued that having an international U.S. military presence would not lead to peace, but instead chaos and destruction. On the other hand, it can be viewed as a warning to other countries, proving that the U.S. is prepared for defense. A strong military shows the strength of the United States and can prevent domestic interference. In conclusion, we believe that in issues of national or international security emergencies where American lives are in danger, it is acceptable to have an international U.S. military presence. Thank you. We are now ready for your questions.
Thanks, everybody. Okay, let's jump right into that, the military presence question. So about 12 miles from where I live is the White House, and just north of that is Lafayette Square. A lot of protests across the country last year, including some in Lafayette Square. The protesters were cleared from Lafayette Square, and then President Trump walked across the square with the head United States Army general in uniform. Should the general have appeared in that picture with President Trump after the protesters were cleared? Do you see any problems with that, or was that completely okay?
I believe that in order to avoid conflict within our own citizens, the whole point of the protest was to spread awareness and to express our freedom of speech, right? But I think that that the general, it made sense for him to show up to kind of settle down the citizens and just to make sure that there was no violence and that it was a peaceful protest.
I agree with my colleague. I believe that it was right for the armed general to show up because it shows another line of defense as well as to prevent people from uprising and conflict.
Okay, so the general in this case did show up. I'm wondering, just as we look at that, are there any times when a military person should not do what the president wants? So are there any times when the president or the commander-in-chief, whomever it is, whether it was the last president, this president, the next president, whomever, tells the military to do something? Are there any times when the military should say no? Can you think of any examples or any times when it would not be appropriate to do what the commander-in-chief wants?
I don't think so because at the end of the day, the president is the chief, and I say whatever is said by the chief should go along. Sometimes, although it might not be always right, at the end of the day, the president has the call to put forth what is to go and what is to not with the military.
I disagree with my colleague. I believe that one should go against what the president is directing them to do in terms of the citizens in our nation being put at danger.
In Dwight D. Eisenhower's farewell speech that you guys discussed, part of his statement to the American people was that only a alert and knowledgeable citizenry can keep the balance between the military industrial complex and the people, right? And peace, essentially. how do you think that we can have an alert and knowledgeable citizenry about the activities of the military?
I believe we can do so as by first informing our citizens and allowing them to have that knowledge to where they're able to understand both sides of being a citizen, as well as some ways without exposing the confidentiality of what goes on in the military to standardized citizens, but also allowing them to understand the methods and why which certain things go about in order for there to be a balance to where citizens understand and can comprehend without there being any conflict or less conflict.
Yeah, I agree with my colleague. I believe that we should, like as citizens, we should be aware of what's going on. But I also think if we knew everything, it would impose danger because citizens, we're very, we like to like, we're filled with emotions. So if we find out of things like that we disagree with or that are just wrong, we like, you saw what happened with all the protests, like we do something about it and we spread awareness. But I do think that if we were a little bit more aware of like what's going on, um, we could one day like see peace with that.
I agree with my colleague. I would also like to add on that in terms of citizens being aware and like informed, there has to be a certain level of understanding as well. But when it comes to citizens acting, we need to understand that there's also a process that the military has to go to before taking action. And certain citizens might not get that concept, which is why it would cause danger in the way we would react to certain situations if we are aware of everything that goes on.
Very good. I want to pick up on something you said in your opening statement. You said we shouldn't use military force unless it is necessary. And so I'm wondering when, in your view, in your opinion, in your judgment, in your view, when, under what conditions might it be necessary to use military force?
I would say it would be necessary to use military force when the lives of many Americans are in danger or when we are under attack or we know something is about to happen. So that way we may be informed and ready for defense and be able to protect the citizens as well. And just to make sure that everyone's safe and that nothing is going to go on in the country that can put all of our lives in danger.
Okay, that seems reasonable. Any other times when you think military force might be justified?
I believe that the use of military force would be justified. For example, during one of the riots that took place at, I believe it was the Capitol during the hearing where citizens decided to destroy and barbared themselves into the Capitol during the meeting. And I believe armed force would have been needed because that's a form of terrorism against our own country. And it's putting lives of major people who make very important decisions for our country at stake.
Yes, I agree with my colleagues. Our military doesn't only work internationally, but it also should work to protect our own people, and that would be a good way to enforce the military.
I would also like to add on that military presence could also be necessary when our president or someone in higher power is traveling around to a different country to ensure that they're safe as well.
Very good.
The military has been accused of not being great judges of their own members, especially around recent plague of sexual assault. Do you think that military members should be judged by other military members, or should it be a civilian court?
I believe it should have a balance of citizens as well as military force because although we're not inside of the military and we don't know exactly how the military is run, I believe that there needs to be a balance of those who are aware of the system and how it works as well as citizens because we're the ones that they're supposed to be
You can
protecting.
go ahead, finish up. Well, Unit 6, fantastic job, my friends. I really, we challenged you with some difficult questions, and and here you are, you've learned all of these ideas about our system of government. And it's one thing to know those ideas, it's another thing to apply them to real examples. And it's another thing entirely to be able to think on your feet and use the knowledge that you've learned from your awesome teacher and conducting your own research and putting it together in a way that makes sense in answering our follow-up questions. And I thought you did a really good job of doing that. And that's really what this whole experience is about. When you look back on this, by the way, I suspect I've been doing, did I mention I've been doing this for 30 years? You should probably do something better with your life than do this. I mean, this is pretty good. I admit it's pretty good, but you want to do some other things with your life. But when you look back on this, you're not likely to remember me or the other judges. What you're likely to remember is that you learned a lot about what it means to be a citizen, and that you had fun while you did it, and you were able to demonstrate that you knew something to other people, and not just writing on a test, but talking with them. So I really appreciated your performance, and thank your teacher again.
Yeah, thank you all. It was a pleasure to chat. I particularly enjoyed, there were a couple of your comments where you talked about how the founding fathers would not agree today. And I was like, that I really like that. You are one of the hardest skills to do, right? Your perspective taking from people who were just 250 years ago and applying it to a current situation and saying, what is their analytical lens? And here's where I think they would come down today. Particularly enjoyed that. And I liked how you had you were unafraid, you were willing, you were you were unafraid. You took stances on some things, expressed your opinion on things, and grounded it in some of the reasoning skills that I can see you're been working on through the We the People. So thank you for that. I know you're about halfway through your day, or you're getting warmed up. So I hope you go and represent Chicago Hope and the great state of Illinois very well in the rest of your day. Thanks for coming to We the People.
Yes, thank you very much. I echo what my colleagues have said, and I wish you guys well in the rest of the competition. I was particularly struck, as was Professor Arthur, with your discussion about the founding fathers and their arguments against the standing army. One thing that I might suggest is think about what is your answer if somebody comes back with, well, we have a lot more money in the United States than we did back then for a central army. So what if money is no object? Would the founding fathers still have an objection?